Your destination is on the left.
Welcome back to another exciting episode. Today we are at Fort McClary. This fort has been here since the Revolutionary War. At least a fort has been here since that time. So come along with me and see what we can see. Now they do have handicap parking and other ample parking right at the fort itself. Now there is a park entrance fee, as you see here. Just be aware that the park is open some days, but the blockhouse might be closed some times of the year. Now the park is open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., at least at the time that we were visiting. The outer granite walls were added in around 1864 to 1868. And if completed during the Civil War, it was going to look very much like Fort Popham or Fort Knox that we have episodes on earlier. Although one curiosity that I have is, what were they shooting at? That's a stone wall. Now if you look straight out there, you'll see a lighthouse and another fort. Huh. And there's some of the older parts of Fort McClary. Now it's interesting to note that Fort McClary was actually occupied all the way up to and through World War I. Now this fort has been used again for nearly 275 years to protect any approaches to that river. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Now the buildings that are presently on the site represent several different periods of construction as the fort was upgraded and modified to meet the area's defensive needs. As you see, some of this area is a little on the darker side and not handicapped accessible. So if you do have major walking issues, some of the areas will not be accessible to you, unfortunately. But if you can explore, do so. You get some really neat sights. Now it is neat that camping there, you can actually walk right on top of it. Carefully, but you can do it. And this is the site that you see over top. And boy, it's a long way down. Now for those who are wondering what a caponniere is, this kind of gives you a kind of a visual indication. It's simply work extending outside the wall that permits gunfire or cannon fire along the length of the defense wall. So essentially it's just like an outcropping where rifles and sometimes cannon can be used. Now of course I'm assuming that is a turret of some sort. Cannon, or maybe during World War I that was a machine gun of some sort. nobody really has indication of exactly what that is. Now, all throughout, you'll see some granite structures. We assume it's from parts of the wall that fell. But not only can you sit on those, but there are some picnic benches around and other benches around that you can rest the legs if you need to. But to me, granite is just as easy. Unless it's like a really cold day, then, you know, you might not want to do that. Now, there's a nice walk around. It's fairly flat. Not exactly wheelchair accessible, but for people like me who occasionally need canes, and it seems like needing canes more and more every year, and those who maybe walkers or some other difficulties walking, it's really not a bad walk. Now, there are some slightly more adventurous paths if you want to take them. By going up to the main part of the fort, you'll see this octagon looking building. Now, that's very reminiscent, not exactly, but reminiscent of another fort that I did in a previous episode on Maine. Tell you what, put that fort's name in the comments below, and I'll mention you on a upcoming video. Now, the steps on the path that I chose are a bit high, but take it nice and slow, you'll be fine. But there's an easier path to take if you need to. And obviously this was the magazine. It's very, very thick. Because if anything explodes, you want it to stay in here. Now, I have to be careful what I show, because somebody got in here and put some nasty stuff on the wall on the right. So can't show you the whole thing, or YouTube might demonetize, so sorry about that. Unlike the other blockhouse in a previous episode that we showed, this one you can actually go into. Now, again, unfortunately, there is no handicap accessibility, so you have to climb the steps. But one really cool thing, this part is actually kind of like a drawbridge. To defend it, they can actually pull this in, and nobody can get in. Haha, pretty cool. Whoa, this is awesome. And as you can see here, this is one of the many cannon holes. What a view. Wow. There's also some really, really good information on the walls all throughout the building. So I highly suggest you take your time, take a look, and all kinds of really neat educational material here. They even show how the viewports or the gun ports could actually be closed with kind of a shutter type system. Neat. And to give you an idea of the size of the balls you had to have to man this station, this kind of gives you an idea. Now you can also see how they kind of partitioned off the different parts of the blockhouse. They could shut doors, shut overhangs, and really protect this quite well. Now you can even go up a little higher and these are the officers' quarters. Now again, the steps are a bit high, but for us they did have a handrail, so that's good. Let's just say they had to have some really short officers. Kind of tight up here. Well, actually, it did open up a bit. So as you can see from Elias, you do have a little bit more headroom as you turn the corner. So we're assuming that is where the bedrooms and such were. But just look at the views that they got. Wow. Now going back down to the main level, there's also another stairway going down. Let's find out where this goes. Ah, neat. Another defensive point and a powder magazine. That's deep. And walking around, of course, as the design was intended, you can defend 360 degrees if you needed to. Ooh, this is a nice open area. Huh, I would have thought there'd be a cannon here. I guess not. Well, I suppose there's not really any place to vent out the exhaust here. But also a wonderful view of a lawnmower. Oh well. Timing is everything when it comes to video. I just realized there's no other way out of here other than back up those steps. Huh. Interesting. I guess that makes for a very good defensive posture, but if anything goes wrong in that powder room, you're kind of stuck. Now that area, they believe that's where the barracks used to be that were construction 1808. You can kind of see the outline there. Now in 1864, they created a bastion down in this area. It is interesting to me, they have a nice little walkway. Just be careful at the bottom. A little rocky and some ankle twisters. Now here's the granite magazine. Oh, and watch out, there are mosquitoes everywhere, so make sure you bring in your bug repellent. That's a huge magazine. And of course, the reason why they had that was because down here was where they had the cannon. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or they just had 2 with some sort of big spindle system in the center. not quite sure. They weren't very specific on this. Now, in case you're wondering, yes, they do have handicapped available restrooms. However, they are sort of hidden. So they're kind of behind some bushes at the walk around the corner, and there's your fort. So just keep that in mind. And next to the restrooms, you will find a lot of extra trails that you can explore. They go along the river, and they go up, around, and about in the woods. So whatever your adventure level, you pretty much got it here. And there's also period gardening that goes on here on site. And we just happened to be here at the time when there was an attendant, and you can ask her any questions you want.